Hello, I'm Michaela Elliott for the Bakersfield Mayor's Race, a historical race, 25 candidates, all wanting to represent our city as mayor. One candidate, though, stands out in the crowd. Bit of an underdog, addicted to drugs, homeless, arrested and convicted. The odds were against him, but he was able to overcome them and is making a big impression during his campaign.
Born and raised in Bakersfield on a cold day, December 10th, 1979, 36-year-old TJ Esposito has quite the story to tell. He was raised by a single father, and life wasn't easy for either of them. Despite tough times, the father and son managed.
Being raised by a single dad, and I know how much he struggled with me and tried to keep me fed and keep me off the streets. You know, I just loved my dad, and I just was happy that, you know, it was me and him, and we were survivors together.
And Esposito became president of his high school and graduated in 1998. With a bright future ahead, Esposito fell into a dark cycle of drug addiction, jail, and homelessness. After graduating the rehabilitation program at the Bakersfield Rescue Mission, things were starting to turn around. Or were they? Relapsing in 2006, Esposito found himself divorced and back in jail. After that, he took a vow for a permanent life change. Esposito was determined to make a new life, but had no idea what was about to happen. With his newfound love, Amanda, things were looking great. Landing a partnership with a retired judge, Frank Hoover, Esposito used his street smarts to host a radio talk show, which led into a career in building companies in the legal and medical industries. Now, with a new family, an extremely successful company, and one amazing story, Esposito has decided to run for mayor. We had an opportunity to sit down with longtime friend and local attorney Bobby Cloud, who shares his insights about TJ. What first drew you to TJ in terms of his professional capabilities, that sort of thing, or was it a friendship first? Or?
It was a friendship first. He has a great personality. He's fun to be around. He's a lot of fun. But he is, as he would say, a grinder. That guy will fight for you if he's in your corner. That's definitely true. And I like that professionally.
Yeah. That's what you need is in your line of work, huh?
Well, and that's what I know. Believe me, if I know people that know how to fight, I do it every day. So having someone that works with me in my marketing and doing negotiations and fighting for me, that means a lot.
How did your business change after you brought TJ on?
It exploded. He was able to work with my marketing structure, create a brand, and was able to create relationships that led to better business deals for me and better business deals for the other side as well.
What was your initial reaction when you heard that TJ was running for mayor?
I smiled. TJ is the kind of guy that when he gets a crazy idea, which seems at first, he turns it into reality, even though people don't necessarily believe it at first. If he puts his mind to something, it's not something to laugh at, that's for sure.
What do you think of the qualities that TJ would bring to the mayor's office?
I think he'd do the same thing. If he had Bakersfield in his corner and he was fighting for Bakersfield to do the same thing, he would create a sense of respectability and someone not to be trifled with. Some of the things he's already done for Bakersfield show that he's willing to not back down and go to the plate and have those hard conversations that need to be had. I think his goal is to bring a lot of things to light, and some of those things are going to be rough, especially with the political structure in Bakersfield.
Why should we vote for TJ Esposito?
TJ's not part of the machine. There's a lot of things that I know that have gone on in town that I've seen, not just in the newspaper and the media, that the public knows about, things that I have personal knowledge of that the people need to know about. They need someone that's going to get that information and bring it forward and call people out on the things that they're doing. There's too many secretive things that go on in politics. I think that's becoming very apparent in this election season, not just with the mayor, but and not just with Bakersfield in general. I think people are tired of politicians having backroom deals. TJ's the type of guy to go in the back room, find out what's going on, and then come out with a bullhorn to call everybody out on what they're doing.
After talking with Bobby, we had an opportunity to sit down with Amanda Esposito, who shares a different side of her husband, TJ. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about TJ Esposito. I know you know him. Let's see, when did you guys meet?
I've known him for about 16 years.
What attracted you to TJ?
He's very, very funny.
You like somebody who laughs, huh?
Oh, 100%.
You've been married how long?
7 years, actually, just passed May 2nd.
Characterize in one word what it's like to be married to TJ.
Fun.
How so?
He's never boring. He's very energetic, very busy, very smart. We have a lot of fun together.
How did he tell you that he wanted to run for mayor?
Well, it's funny that you asked that because I found out on Facebook.
Really?
Yes. He's been saying, like, since the last time that there was an election that he wanted to run. And I kind of talked him out of it at that time because we were just so overwhelmed with our businesses and kids and stuff. And this time, he said that he wanted to run, and, I didn't disagree with him. We didn't really discuss it a whole lot. And I saw on Facebook that he was running for mayor, and I kind of giggled and knew that was going to happen.
Are there times when you hear him concoct an idea or hatch an idea and you just go, oh my gosh, what are we getting ourselves into?
Every time he does that, actually, I do that. But I encourage him to write it down. He's had a lot of good success with doing that, so I support him and encourage him.
When he gets an idea and he goes with it, does it usually pan out?
The majority of the time, and he'll ask my opinion on it, and I'll tell him what my thoughts are. If I really don't feel firm that it's going to be a good idea, then, I'll let him know right away.
You say he's a pretty good listener, takes counsel and advice.
Oh, yeah, most definitely.
Can you see him working with city council members, city manager, constituents?
He's very receptive to what other people's thoughts are. He's a good leader. He delegates well. He's very responsible.
What are some other qualities of leadership that you've seen him exhibit?
He's had, several different businesses. He owns his own marketing company. He delegates specific job duties to specific people.
You guys invested your savings. I understand you were going to buy a house, and then you guys decided to buy the business. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. We actually had some savings for a down payment for a home. I saw that Patriot Bail Bonds was for sale. We decided to get a lunch meeting together with the owners at the time, and we basically invested our savings for our home into our business. When we did that, I had never ran a business before, so obviously that is very nerve-wracking and scary. And TJ just kind of guided me along. Bail bonds is something that I knew very well, but running the overall office as a whole, I had no experience whatsoever. So he was very, very good at helping me.
What kind of things did he teach you?
The responsibility of owning a business as a whole, and how much of a big deal it is, to be responsible, manage your money properly, have a budget for things that you're going to spend on a monthly basis, make sure the money comes in, and make sure that all the bills get paid.
He was an encouragement to you, wasn't he?
He was my backbone the entire time. If I had a question, I would be like, TJ, how do I do this? And he would just explain and guide me through it. And overall, I think together as a team, we are phenomenal.
What message would you send to the people of Bakersfield about TJ? And
his life as a whole, there's a lot that happened in a short amount of time. He did come from something that most children shouldn't have to go through. His dad is a wonderful man, and he did a good job along with his grandmother. It doesn't matter what challenge it is if he wants to do it, and he's determined, and he'll get it done.
I say TJ and Bakersfield, and what comes to your mind?
Home. Born and raised here. He loves it here, as do I. We don't have any plans of retiring elsewhere. He just really loves the city as a whole.
Why should people vote for your husband?
Because he's the best candidate.
What makes him the best candidate?
People listen to him. They just listen to him, and he'll make it to where there's awareness to things that people need to be taking notice to.
You've seen his past. Now stay tuned to find out how he plans to use his future to better our city. Our exclusive interview with TJ Esposito after the break.
Educating our children and developing our next generation is crucial for a great future. I will fight for small business and new local jobs, and I will represent Bakersfield with pride. Vote TJ Esposito June 7th.
My name is TJ Esposito, and I approve this message.
I had the opportunity to sit down with one of the 25 mayoral candidates for the city of Bakersfield, TJ Esposito. for an exclusive interview. Let me ask you, why you, why now?
I'm a small business owner in Bakersfield, and it just drives me nuts. When we go to these council meetings and, you know, we're up there speaking, and the mayor and the city council is looking down on us, and city manager's over there looking at us, kind of rolling his eyes, and it feels like everything that, you know, we say as citizens kind of falls on deaf ears sometimes. And I think the one thing that we need in government, especially local government, is a voice. And I think that's one thing the mayor has, is a strong voice.
You said you don't feel like there's a voice. We're hearing city government talk to us, but they're not hearing us talk to them. As a businessman, do you feel that way?
Yes, I feel like we have to have a voice as citizens. There's so many politicians in government, you know, and you've seen it with the presidential race. You've seen this establishment, agenda-pushing, you know, group that they're, you know, kicking their feet if they don't get their way. And I think even more on a local level, we have these things happening. And as a business owner and citizen and father, somebody who's going to be here in Bakersfield, I feel like we have to kind of set up our own future.
Do you feel like things could be happening that aren't happening, that should be happening, because people are more concerned about protecting their party, protecting their position?
I think so. And, you know, they have their friends. They all have the same donors. They're all the same friends. If you look at the pictures on social media, you look at some of these people who represent parties, for instance, the Republicans, they're in all the same pictures. They're in all the same Rotary groups. They're all in the same circles, so to speak. And they talk to each other. They have their own agendas, whether it's, you know, property interest or a nonprofit grant. You know, they have interest in government and interest in keeping their friends in power.
Do you feel that the lack of label, Republican label, Democratic label, that hurts you because some people tend to vote along party lines when they maybe don't even know the issues that the candidates stand for? Does that hurt you or help you?
I think in this case it helps me because I'm an independent. I'm not a Republican or Democrat. But, you know, one thing that I've noticed is, you know, the mayor is a nonpartisan position. And if you're in there and you're pushing an agenda, for instance, what if there's a Republican who is mayor and there's a gay parade? Don't you think the mayor needs to show up for every single citizen? Whether it's a gay parade or NRA gun rally, you know, the mayor has a duty to represent every citizen, no matter what they believe is right or wrong.
What do you think are some areas of concern that you need to tackle right away? I know we've talked about some of the lists that Bakersfield finds itself on that are not too favorable, changing those kinds of things, and elaborate a little bit if you would on.
We come in on several worst city lists in the country. They take these big polls, and these aren't just dummy polls. These are real polls by Yahoo and these big companies do these polls. And Bakersfield has come in the last 5 or 6 years on several of these polls. Bottom of the list, by the way, most illiterate city. City with the most chlamydia infection or STD infection. The drunkest city. You know, when you look at people coming in and new businesses coming in, when new business comes in, sometimes new families move in. And no one really wants to take their family to a chlamydia-infested, illiterate city. You know, think about that, you know. And if we're going to grow Bakersfield and we're going to streamline the city, we have to start thinking forward and try to clean up the way, you know, I guess the way people think about us.
How would you do that? Bakersfield
is very loving. If you look, this city is very special and caring. The people in it are very beautiful. These are the same people that when I was down in the gutter that, you know, lifted out their hand and pulled me up and gave me opportunities where in maybe some big cities they wouldn't have done that. Maybe I'd just be another homeless guy. But Bakersfield is special in that way. And people, you know, we could put a barbecue in a dirt field and raise 50 grand for sick kids in one day. You know, Bakersfield is very special. And we got to get that across to America, you know. And there's other ways too, Jeff. You know, we get the city involved in things together. For instance,
losing 100,000 pounds as a city. You know, I've talked to some churches, local churches, and they would be in for that. You know, getting involved, getting the people of the city involved in common goals. Last thing about that, Jeff, is if you look at cities like Pittsburgh, okay, their basketball team, their college basketball team went to the championships, and they had an away game. You know how many people showed up? 30,000 people went to the away game. You know, in Bakersfield, our boys, our CSUB boys, went to Vegas to that championship game. You know how many people showed up? 1,000 people. We have a real need for spirit, pride. You know, people aren't proud of Bakersfield like people from Pittsburgh are proud of Pittsburgh.
Let's talk about the economy a little bit. The oil industry is really struggling. What do you see as a way to help turn that around and kind of boost the economy for the city of Bakersfield, foster new jobs, that sort of thing?
We have a real opportunity in regards to green energy. You know, there's no reason why we shouldn't have a national green energy convention right here at the Rabobank Arena once a year, a national convention, the biggest in the country. We can rally that together. We can put it together. You know, we invite green energy engineers and solar engineers and hydro, all these guys, cutting edge guys from all over the country into this big convention. And you know what'll happen is these guys will get here and say, wow, look at how dirty the air is. Look at how dirty the water is. We have a real opportunity to test our new products. Bring some of this in and test it in the city. What a better test market for all these cutting edge things. We got to bring them in. And, you know, we've got to diversify. We've got to be thinking outside the box like that, Jeff. You know, we have to diversify away from oil and ag and government jobs. You know, like I said before, we've got to be looking at jobs that are going to be relevant in 2021. And those jobs are not in oil and ag. They're in technology, they're in healthcare, they're in veterinary, and they're in green energy.
You've been watching our exclusive interview with TJ Esposito. One of Bakersfield's growing problems is homelessness. Up next, find out how TJ plans to get our homeless population back on track in just 10 months. Stay tuned to find out how he plans to do that.
Educating our children and developing our next generation is crucial for a great future. I will fight for small business and new local jobs, and I will represent Bakersfield with pride. Vote TJ Esposito June 7th.
My name is TJ Esposito, and I approve this message.
One of the things that Bakersfield continues to deal with is homelessness. How do you plan to attack that issue? What do you think the mayor's role will be in tackling homelessness?
As somebody who's previously been homeless, I can tell you that there's a lot of barriers, a lot of brick walls in between a homeless person receiving homeless services. For instance, to check into the rescue mission right now, you have to be there at a certain time, you have to have a valid ID, and you have to be able to pass a drug test. So in my opinion, if they're going to have those expectations for homeless people to receive these services, they need to be providing avenues to get there. So if they're requiring somebody to have a valid ID, you need to give that person the benefit of the doubt or understand they need a voucher to go to the DMV and get an ID. To pass a drug test, there's no detox place. These people are on the streets. And some of them are veterans that smoke marijuana for PTSD. You know, we have to provide ways for these guys to get into homeless services. A couple of things that I plan to do, and I'm going to be releasing a 4-point plan, real easy plan. Instead of a 10-year plan, it's going to be a 10-month plan. Can we take them from the streets to the next place, get them moving in the system? They're on the sidewalks right downtown on Chester, and there's nothing happening. So we've got to get them moving through the system.
There has to be a goal, a shift in the mindset that gets them from where they are to where they could be.
You know, when I was landed in the shelter, the guy, Angelo Frazier, Chaplain Frazier, he came in and he said, "Hey, come into the rehabilitation center." They accepted me into the rehabilitation. I spent my time in the rehabilitation, graduated, got my first job from somebody in the church. I was going to church, and somebody in the church gave me a job as a helper, and I worked up, and then from I was sleeping on a guy's couch, paying him a couple $100 rent. Then I got my own apartment. It's baby stepping back into society, but first things first. ID, pass a drug test. You got to do it. We've got to get them into the services.
Let's talk a little bit about your past, because you touched on it a little bit, and how it shaped your future. Give us kind of the rundown of in a nutshell, TJ's past. Yeah,
I've been very honest, by the way. I do have a little bit of a, touchy history. I mean, I guess that's a light way of putting it. I've been to jail. I've been convicted of felonies. Things I'm not proud of, by the way. I'm not proud of those things. I became a drug addict at a very early age. I had a very, very bad cocaine addiction when I turned 19, and it quickly turned into a meth addiction. My life took a turn for the worst. I ended up in jail. I lost my good job at the Better Business Bureau, and I did a year in jail. I did about 8 months in our county jail in Laredo. And, right after I was released is when I found myself homeless and kind of at a point where I was like, enough's enough. I became a Christian and went through the rehabilitation center and started stepping up into life. In 2007, I fell into a bad divorce and relapsed a little bit. And in about a 1 week or 10-day period, I was arrested about 3 times. One was a domestic violence, one was a high-speed chase with the cops, and one was an assault with a deadly weapon, which was my vehicle. I mean, it was an altercation, and my rearview mirror clipped a guy's hand. I mean, but that was assault to death. Not discounting that I shouldn't have done that. I mean, it was something bad that I did, and but I paid my debt to society. And I guess the one that I'm most ashamed of is the domestic violence. There was no excuse for that. I wasn't a man. I wasn't a father. I really hurt my family, and I learned a lot from that. I would say that was probably the most shameful thing that I've done, and the single most incident that I learned the most from. It taught me a lot about being a man and being a dad. I could tell you I learned a lot of lessons, but through those things, Jeff, I think I can understand what normal people go through. If you look at those folks that are at the shelter, or those folks that are sitting in Laredo right now, they can relate to exactly what I'm saying, and I can understand what they're going through. See, we need somebody who's a leader that can show up into Cottonwood. We need someone who could show up into Loma. We need someone that can go and tee up at Seven Oaks Country Club and play golf with other politicians from other areas, or doctors or lawyers, things like this. Somebody who's very diverse, who can relate to somebody from the bottom to the top. I think I'm the guy, and with those life experiences has given me that edge.
Would you say it knocked off some rough edges of TJ?
My dark days are over, but there's a lot of bright days to come.
When you seriously considered running for mayor, did the thought enter your mind, nobody's going to elect me, I got a record?
Sure. I mean, and I've taken some major heat from it. But to answer your question, yeah, they said I was crazy. My friends, some of the lawyers in town are like, you are crazy. You are going to take some heat. They're going to crucify you.
Has the heat been as much as you expected?
People are a little judgmental of it, and on social media especially.
Where they can be anonymous.
Yeah, I've taken a lot of flack, but that's what we need, is somebody who's honest. These guys, they'll lie about the littlest things. And when they get caught in a lie, they blow it off like, oh, it's no big deal. But that's the problem, is we need some transparency in government. All my past is out there. You can't say anything I haven't already said. Now the only thing to talk about is the issues. And I think that's a pretty interesting deal.
We hear a lot about, especially in national politics, maybe the presidential race. What would you do in your first 90 days? So, as mayor of Bakersfield, what's the top priority for you?
In regards to issues in the city, Mr. Hall has been such a great man and a nice man, and Hall Ambulance is a stellar company. But I feel like our city's growing, and our city's growing into a big city. And if you look at other big cities across America, the local fire department has their own ambulance units. And I think what that does is cuts down the stigma of having a monopoly. And not to mention, we have other problems, our tow system, our dependence on PG&E. You know, for a bigger city, you don't see that too often. And so we've got to get away from that and start giving people options, especially in the medical sector.
Can you change the role of mayor from moving beyond the ceremonial to really gaining influence and making decisions that really affect the things that you're talking about?
Absolutely. And going back to what I said about having a voice, you know, the mayor doesn't really have any voting power. And the mayor's role is kind of a figurehead. But, you know, if you look at the mayor, he has a big voice. When the mayor talks, people listen. For instance, if the city of Bakersfield is, some department is going after some big grant with the government, you know, it's a powerful statement to say the mayor is behind this. You know, and that's what I want to do. The mayor's the one person who can get behind something. See, the city manager can't really do that, and neither can the council members. It's the mayor that says, Bakersfield is behind this. And I plan on using that voice for the citizens. That's the reason I'm running for this specific position as mayor, is because he is the person that should be the voice for the citizens.
The cheerleader.
He's the one guy, even more than a cheerleader. The mayor should have open door policy and open communication from the citizens. They should be able to text him. They should be able to walk into City Hall. They should be able to find him on social media and private message him and voice their concerns. The mayor should be putting up surveys on his feed. Do you agree with this? What do you think about this? Yes or no? Putting his ear to the ground to the citizens and then voicing those concerns in the government. The mayor should be keeping these guys accountable.
From stomping out homelessness to breaking the barriers set in place by local establishment, TJ Esposito is bringing some new blood to this campaign. Remember to vote June 7th, and also remember, community comes first.
Hey folks, thanks for tuning in tonight. I appreciate you taking the time to learn more about me and what I plan on doing for our city. If you will vote for me on June 7th, TJ Esposito at the ballot, I will be a great mayor and I will work so hard for Bakersfield. Now go to Facebook. I will be taking your questions live on 23ABC's Facebook page. So pull out your mobile device and log in now.